afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Monday, August 25th. It's Alexis Garcia here, and indexes consolidated their gains after a powerful rally on Friday. This, of course, followed Jerome Powell's seemingly dovish turn on interest rates. And here with me to help break down all you need to know about today's market action is IBD Markets Research Director Justin Nielsen. So, Justin, what's on the docket for us today?
Well, we will, of course, talk a little bit about the markets, but we'll all talk about some stocks that are holding up pretty well, including Skywest, which joined leaderboard today. I do have a position in that one, StoneCo, and also AutoNation.
Well, as you said, I'll slap him up and you slam him down, Justin. But first, let's check on in with the major indexes. The S&P 500 down about 0.4% today. The Dow down about 0.8%. The Nasdaq down about 0.2%, and small caps, which have really been leading the way here, down almost 0.8% today, Justin. So while I get my screen share up, what are your thoughts with the current market action? We saw a really nice rally on Friday. So what are your thoughts on today's market moves?
Yeah, so I mean, we're really kind of still in this. I think we have to wait and see approach. Will the rotation catch on, or will we rotate right back to all those things that uh, were leading this whole rally? So certainly, one of the things that we're going to be having to keep an eye on, of course, is the interest rate sensitive stocks. And so we saw a big move on a lot of these interest rate sensitive stocks on Friday. And look, while the indexes were coming in today, they weren't losing those gains. They still retain the majority of those gains. Most of the indexes were really still in the upper half of the range of Friday. So that's not necessarily a disaster. That's just kind of consolidating, digesting the gains, and that's actually constructive action. As you mentioned, the Russell 2000, if we pull up IWM, that was probably the hardest hit, but you look at that big move. I mean, IWM, the Russell 2000 was up almost 4% on
Hmm.
Friday. So for it to give up a percent, that's still putting it in the upper quartile of that range. So not something that's particularly concerning to me. I do have a position in the triple leveraged IWM, and that's TNA as the triple leveraged version. But that's where I'm at. And again, I'm not I don't like losing that much money, but it's one of those things where I'm still well up on my position, and so I can give it a little bit of room. We should probably take a look at zero TNX because, of course, as you mentioned, a lot of this came from dovish comments by Powell. You saw a big drop in the 10-year Treasury yield on Friday. Today, we're just kind of hanging out. It's an inside day from that big wide spread that we saw on Friday. So I think there's a little bit more of waiting to see what happens here. I think you have to be ready to go in either direction, but we have the potential here to really see a shift in where the stocks are, and we have to be ready for that.
And Justin, as you mentioned, not only digesting Powell comments, but we also have Nvidia earnings on the horizon Wednesday after the close. How do you see that factoring in for some potential market moves this week?
Well, here again, it depends on what the leadership goes to. If it's a rotation more to some of the stocks that we saw really having a strong day on Friday, it might be a big nothing burger at the end of the day. But look, Nvidia is so important, not just because of what they say, but it's also kind of the tone that it sets for a lot of other uh, either their vendors or people that rely on their chips. So that says a lot about AI space in general. So certainly something that I think is going to be well worth watching. And look, as much as Nvidia was coming in a little bit last week, it really got that upside reversal back above the 21-day moving average line. And if you go to the weekly chart real quick, you can see that Nvidia, it's 2.5% off its high. So this is not something that is going through, a correction, a major correction at all. This is getting support right there at the 10-week moving average line. So still certainly worth watching. And again, not just for it by itself, but what it kind of says for the chip space and the AI space.
And Justin, since we're on NVIDIA, I know you have Kathleen Donnelly on this week on the podcast. Really interested to hear what she has to say about her position in this and how she's handling it with earnings coming up. But let's just quickly round this out with the S&P 500. We can give that a quick look. Any thoughts here on the action and how that's measuring up to what you've been saying about the market?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with the daily chart. It's certainly, again, this had a strong day on Friday. Not as much as the Russell 2000, but hey, it was still very decent.
We'll
And
take it.
it's retaining the bulk of those gains still. But let's take a look at RSP as well, which is the equal weighted S&P 500. Um, the the breadth on Friday was incredible. Again, it wasn't just the big cap, mega cap companies really distorting the index strength. This was really broad based, and RSP had a really strong day on Friday. Lost a little bit of ground today, but again, we're right there, kind of at that halfway point for RSP, the equal weighted S&P 500. So I think these look okay. Let's also, just because we talked about the mega caps, let's take a quick look at FNGS, which is the Fang Plus, and that really kind of is showing, hey, look, it might not have been the best performer on Friday, but it was still a very solid gain, and that's not giving up much at all today, just 0.2%. So it's certainly, I think, too early to count the mega caps out at this point.
All right, well, let's take a look at some sector ETFs, starting with IBIT, Bitcoin on the move today, Justin, and not in a great way. This one down just about 5% today. So, talk to me about what's going on there and how you see this chart.
Yeah, a little disappointed actually, because this had a very strong move on Friday, along with a lot of other things. But you saw that support right there at the 50-day moving average line, and yeah, it looked good. Of course, over the weekend, they had actually, I think it was Kit Norton that wrote about this, or maybe it was Harrison, but a really good article about a little mini flash crash here in Bitcoin over the weekend, as a lot of sellers came in. A big whale of a seller selling about $2 billion worth, I think 24,000 Bitcoin. So that was certainly putting some pressure on. Does it mean that the Bitcoin play is over? Not necessarily, but it is disappointing whenever you see a reversal like that in a strong day. When you start undercutting the recent lows, that's something that you just want to be aware of. And it's also worth noting, let's just take a quick look at ETHA, Ethereum. I do have a position in this ETF myself. It came down really sharply as well, but this one has been showing a little bit more strength lately, starting from this move that it had at right around 25 or a little bit above, and through 30. Really strong day. I mean, this was up what, like 15% on Friday. So yeah, it's lost a great deal of that gain, but it's still holding up much better in terms of holding above its recent lows. So it remains to be seen. Again, is this just going to be some extra volatility for now, or is this something that's a little bit more concerning for the crypto space?
And I'm just back on the IBIT chart here, Justin. So if you were in with this base, it's basically round tripped that buy point. I mean, are you viewing this as a sell signal, or how are you approaching this if you're holding shares of IBIT?
Yeah, I think for a recent purchase, I bet it's a little tough. You can, if you've got an earlier entry, then you've got the option to hold on to this. But breaks of the 50-day moving average line are concerning for me, and breaks of previous levels of support are something that concern me. So that is, I think, for a recent purchase, this is something that you're definitely going to need to be trimming back to cut your losses.
All right, well, let's take a look at the IBD Growth 50 ETF. This one, again, holding those nice gains from Friday, was up 3% on Friday, holding steady flat today. So, what is this telling you about growth stocks?
Well, again, growth stocks do seem to be catching a bit here, and the fact that this retained those gains, didn't really give anything up, I think, is a strong showing for the growth names. So again, it remains to be seen. I mean, that was a pretty sharp drop that we had in a single day last week, but the recovery has happened almost immediately. So yeah, it's pretty good looking. And let's go ahead and go to the weekly chart. you can see that at least, for the year, this has been a really strong rally here since we got over the tariff, the tariff tantrum, I guess. So really strong move there, and remains to be seen if growth can really kind of get out of the funk it was in. Again, a lot of this was that the mega caps were so much in favor, and a lot of other things, just the breadth wasn't there. So we'll see if this breadth can hold as well. And
Right.
also, our producer is asking if you could zoom in the charts just a little bit,
All right, I
Alexis.
will certainly do
Mhm.
that as we switch over to GDX. That's the Vanet Gold Miners. Hopefully, that's showing up a little bit
Yes,
better
looks
there.
better to me.
But again, we saw this nice gain of 1.5% on Friday, holding those gains with a tenth of percent gain today. So, yeah, what's happening with gold, Justin?
Well, I mean, you look at GLD gold, and I mean, it's a little lackluster, to be frank. But the gold miners are looking a little bit better to me, and a lot of times that's the case, right? They're going to go up more, and they're going to get hit more based on what happens with gold, because you can almost think of it as a leveraged play. But there are a number of these that are looking very strong, and again, they really kind of started moving on Thursday, also participated on Friday. So the fact that they're holding the gains, I think, is a good sign for gold right now, at least the miners.
Right. Well, let's round this out with a look at XHB. That's the Home Builders ETF. Again, nice gain on Friday of about 5%, down slightly today, about 1.5%. But as you mentioned, still in this upper range of that Friday trading session. So, thoughts here?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm really looking at the things that can kind of maintain or retain the gains from Friday. Things that give them up completely, those are probably going to be the first to go on my list. Things that are undercutting lows, like we saw with IBIT. But the things that can hold up, I can give those a little bit of time and see how it plays out. Even if I'm down on them, I can give it a little bit of time because I've got my stop losses in place a lot of times at the lows of Friday. Doesn't mean I have to wait until that period, but if these start trading in the lower part, that's going to be concerning for me, especially if they spend a lot of time below there. But right now, with a lot of these things trading in the upper part of Friday's range, I think it's still worth giving them some time to see how this plays out.
All right, well, let's take a look at some individual stocks, shall we? Starting with Skywest, Justin, and pulling up the daily chart here, a nice gain of about 1.9% today, peaking above this buy zone, a cup with handle 119.44 buy point. So, thoughts here?
Yeah, it's a pretty nice looking cup with handle. The closing range, a little disappointing that it came off so much from its highs, but a lot of things came in today. And I should repeat that I do have a position in this. This was also added to leaderboard because it's kind of your classic look. And look, the leisure space, travel, there's a lot of other stocks in this space that are looking good. If we take a broader look at Jets, JETS, that is the airline ETF. That had a very strong look on Friday. Came in a little bit today, but Skywest was showing leadership. It was actually one of the stronger stocks in that space. So that's, I think, a plus for that. I had
Nice
meant to
volume
get some
here as
Jets
well.
exposure. Oh yes, very big volume on there. This is a little bit on the thinner side, so you do have to be careful of that. It's got over 30, over 30 million, $25 million volume is kind of our threshold. We really don't want to go under that too much, and this is above that. But it's still, it only trades on average 340,000 shares a day, so a little bit on the thinner side. But as you mentioned, volume today, pretty spectacular, and double its usual.
All right, well, let's look ahead to StoneCo, Justin. This one up about 0.5% today, working on breaking out of this cup with handle base with a $16 buy point.
So yeah, this is in the finance space. So credit card payments and technology for payment solutions. StoneCo. Let's just real quickly take a look at the weekly chart. This was kind of a high flyer a while ago, and really hasn't done much lately. But it's carved out this nice little base here recently. Only a 25% depth on this base, 10% handle, so it's gotten tighter. It's gotten support at that 10-week moving average line. And so going back to the daily chart, this looks pretty set up to me in terms of a chart pattern. So it's kind of breaking the downtrend of this handle. So you could either, I mean, I would say that this is actionable now, or you could be waiting until it actually crosses the traditional buy point, which is around 16. So either way, you can start kind of buying a little bit and then follow up the position at 16. But this is looking interesting. A little bit of a turnaround situation where you're seeing the earnings growth come on a little bit stronger after a disappointing growth a few quarters ago. So it remains to be seen. Look, this has the Brazilian exposure, and that's been a little tricky again with tariffs for some of these companies. But if you look at EWZ, which is a Brazilian ETF, that's kind of setting up in an interesting way as well, with a strong move on Friday.
All right, well, let's round this out with a look at AutoNation, Justin. This one up about 0.1% today, and again, holding those nice gains from Friday. So thoughts here?
Yeah, so as we were talking about on the IBD Live show this morning, I went through our industry group spreadsheet and I was kind of surprised at some of these areas, whether it was retail, wholesale, automobile, some of the auto parts, some of the original equipment manufacturers that were looking pretty strong. So not the group that you'd normally think of as being like, oh yeah, this is going to be a leading area, but AutoNation, as you said, had a very strong Friday and really retained those gains. Just didn't want to give anything up today. So that's something that does get my attention. On the fundamental side, a little lackluster here. I mean, the last quarter was pretty good, but the fundamentals, a little lackluster. Again, EPS rating not bad at 89, but I do like to see some higher revenue growth. Typically in the stocks that I'm looking for, single digit. Again, doesn't get me too excited, but that chart is really nice looking. This last base really got support at the top of the previous base, so that's a plus. And we did have not a pickup in volume per se in terms of being much larger than average. It was 9% above average, which isn't bad, but it was much larger compared to the last couple weeks, let's say. So this was probably one of the largest volume days in a few weeks, and so that does tell you something, that there was a little bit of institutional interest in this today, or at least some heavy retail interest. So again, a very very interesting look for this one. The fact that it was holding those gains and even stronger volume than on Friday says something to me.
All right, Justin. Well, thank you so much for your analysis. And, Justin is our IBD host extraordinaire, especially with Ali out on maternity leave. And you just had a great podcast episode with Robinhood's chief brokerage officer last week. As we mentioned, you have Kathy Donnelly on this week. What else do we have to look forward to?
Well, gosh, I'm trying to remember who some of our guests are on IBD Live. We just had Leif Sereda. That was a
We have
great
Charles
show.
Harris this
Charles
week.
Harris is coming up. Oh yes, I'm going to be hosting for that too. Charles Harris, of course, one of the portfolio managers under William O'Neill for, gosh, it's been 25 years now since he became a portfolio manager. I remember I used to sit next to him for a while right before he became a portfolio manager. So he's got a lot of wealth of knowledge, a lot of experience, and very humble in terms of some of the psychological tribulations that he's been through, that he's very open about sharing. So it's always great to hear his perspective on things. So definitely check that out if you haven't already, with a trial to IBD Live at investors.com/IBD Live.
Well, Justin, thank you so much again, our MVP utility player here at IBD. And that's it for today. We'll be back with more market analysis tomorrow morning, starting with IBD Live. You can head on over to investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you right back here after the close.